Today, I really wanted to share from the perspective of somebody whose audience hasn't necessarily blown up in the traditional sense that you think a content creator's audience is supposed to blow up, and yet creating content has still paid off massively for me. So if that sounds like something you want to hear, stick around. According to a Goldman Sachs article from April of 2023, the creator economy is supposed to grow to $500 billion by 2027 worldwide, right? And when I was about to make this video, I looked up another statistic and it said currently it's worth over $100 billion, right? And most of the time when people hear this, they want to jump into the creator economy and start creating. And I've been around long enough to see people start blogging, start podcasting, start a YouTube channel, and they sort of fizzle out because maybe they're disappointed. Things haven't worked out the way they thought it would. They thought they would be swimming in money, and it doesn't happen that way immediately. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing something to hopefully encourage you if you're in that boat, or maybe you want to create and need that extra push, or I don't know where you are. I'm just hoping to inspire you. Maybe you want to start creating. Maybe you are a small creator like myself. Whatever it is, I just want this video to encourage you to look at content creation differently and in the different ways it can actually be beneficial to you beyond just getting a piece of the cake of that, $100 million pie, okay? Hey there, I'm Gertrude Noncho. On this channel, I talk about writing and creative entrepreneurship. So my background, my educational training is as a scientist. Both of my bachelor's degrees as well as my PhD are all in the biomedical sciences. And so I should be in a lab somewhere, I should be doing important stuff, which I kind of do. But in my current role, right, even though my role is considered a scientist role at the company I am at right now, I work in a content creation role. I actually take the scientific data that my team produces and I create different content assets out of those pieces. It's known as medical communications, and some people who work in medical communications are medical writers, and that's how I got started. Now, the way content creation plays into this is that in 2015, and I've told this story multiple times, but maybe you haven't heard it before, but in 2015, I started, well, it was 2014, I started a blog. It was called My Online Biz Journey. I wrote that. I built it up to over 500,000 visits in the span of about 3 years. It did fairly well, okay? And through that blog, I sold ebooks, I sold courses, I got affiliate income, Google AdSense, all that nice jazz. So I had all these little multiple income streams coming from the blog. Well, let's fast forward to 2018. At this point, I'm working as a scientist within an academic institution, and we all get laid off because the way that scientific research works in academic institutions is that you need funding, and we run out of funding. I was a postdoctoral researcher at the time. Funding ran out, I was laid off. When I was laid off, right, because of my blog and because of a freelance writing business I had established as a result of the blog, right, I was able to sort of land on my feet. Even though I went through an extended period where I didn't have formal employment, having my blog and having freelance writing really helped. And so that was the first place where content creation made a big difference, right? When I lost my job as a postdoc, I could have landed flat on my butt, no money, nothing to contribute to my household. But because I was creating content at the time, because I was writing a blog, right, and that blog I was able to leverage and turn that into a freelance writing business, writing articles, SEO articles for other people, I was okay. I survived. Okay, so that was the first place it helped. And then we moved forward. I was a community college professor. I enjoyed that, to be honest, but it doesn't pay very well, right? Being a community college professor, I wasn't getting benefits, and I was looking for another opportunity. Because I had been writing all this while since about 2014, 2015, when I applied for a medical writer role, a science writer role, because of that, all that written content I'd done, and because I was a scientist, right, combining the two, it really did help me land that first science writer role I worked in. I worked there for about 1.5 years, and then from there I landed at the company I am at now. And so if it wasn't because of that blog, which led me to discover freelance writing and offer my services as a freelance writer, and so I built up a portfolio that allowed me to get into my first science writer role, I really do doubt I would have this role I have right now, right? And this role is a great role, pays very well. I'm so grateful, so thankful, right, for what I have. And it partially came as a result of content creation. And actually, let me tell you something. When I was interviewing for my current role, I remember my current manager asked me, do you have any experience with video content? And I was like, what? I have a YouTube channel. So I really did share my YouTube channel for my current role, and that worked out. So the second way in which being a content creator has been helpful, even though I don't have a huge audience, is with speaking engagements. Oh my word. I got my first speaking engagement somewhere in 2017. It was at FinCon, which is the Financial Bloggers Conference. I went there, I spoke for 15 minutes. It was great. I got a lot of great feedback from the audience, and was my first out there speaking engagement, right? I didn't get paid, but it did definitely give me a lot of confidence to start building a speaker page. And so I remember somewhere in 2019, I started putting together a speaker page because I'm like, I want to speak, and when people find me, I want them to see my speaker page and say, oh, she's spoken before, so we want to invite her. So I remember I did that in 2019. All right, fast forward to somewhere 2020, I start doing stuff for the Bold PhD. And for those of you that are watching this video that don't know, I run something else, another business known as the Bold PhD. And there, my goal is to help PhDs who want to leave academia transition into other jobs. Okay, so I have a YouTube channel around that. And I started putting my content out there. I started sharing that on Twitter, sharing that specifically on LinkedIn, and people started to notice me. And I started to get speaking engagements. And as of this recording, I've spoken at places like Oxford University. I remember when I got invited to speak at Oxford. It was a virtual talk, but still, you know. I remember when I got invited to speak at Oxford, my team was like, Oxford? We never heard of that. I mean, they were teasing, but it was just really surreal to me. Johns Hopkins, University of Southern California, University of California, Irvine. I've gotten to speak at some incredible places that have all come because of content creation. Like, people would reach out to me and be like, hey, we really like what you talk about on LinkedIn, we've watched some of your YouTube videos, Twitter, whatever, and we just want you to come speak to us about this thing. And I remember the first time it happened, I was a little taken aback, right, that somebody was paying attention. And then it happened over and over again. And because I had the speaker page, it was super helpful to continually send people to my speaker page. And one thing that is really amazing is that the moment you begin to get certain invitations, other people also want to invite you. So once I began to get speaking invitations, I started to put that on my website. Other people began to invite me. So that's another way in which being a content creator has paid off. Now, those talks I've done, some of them have definitely been paid and I've gotten paid for them, but definitely in the earlier days of me speaking for the Bold PhD brand, which was around 2021, I didn't get paid much, but I wanted to gain the experience. I wanted to have the experience, and I wanted to be able to put on my speaker page that I had spoken at this institution. So that was helpful. And then, of course, as time went on, I began to ask, do you have a budget? And now I will only do paid speaking engagements just because it does take time out of my own schedule. And I really do think that if you are offering any service, you should get paid. Of course, you can do some free stuff in the beginning just to get your feet wet, just to get some experience. Sometimes even just for the clout that may go with that, right? Like I said, I spoke at Oxford, right? I spoke at Johns Hopkins. These are heavy hitters in the academic space, right? And this is not to say anything about all the other schools I've spoken. I cherish all of you, by the way. If any of you is watching, I cherish all of you. And so in the beginning, you may do that, but I highly recommend that as soon as you feel confident enough, and that should be maybe around 6 months to a year, please start charging. Please start charging. Okay. I've had people say, oh, we can't afford you, and that's okay. It's all right. Somebody else can afford you. And so thanks to content creation, I can really call myself a public speaker who has gotten paid for public speaking. Creating content has also helped me build my personal brand. Again, small audience, but having this really solid personal brand has helped me in various areas. So I've talked about how it's helped me with my job, talked about how it's helped me with speaking. Another way that, building this personal brand has really helped me has been, and this is really true on LinkedIn, I have gotten job offers. Let me repeat that. It's not like, well, I had to go through an application process, but most of the time it was almost guaranteed that I had this job. Not to brag, and it was all because of my personal brand and the people within my network, especially on LinkedIn, the people within my network who had seen me speak, who have seen my work, who I've shared my work with, and they were impressed with it. And so there was a position that they knew about, and so they could refer me to that, or there was an opportunity that they heard about. Or I remember there was one, that didn't work out, but I remember there was one where one of the people I knew sent me an email and said, hey, there's a TV slot. Do you want it? I know the person personally, and would you like to be considered for it? I'm like, why not? It didn't work out, but none of that would happen if I never ventured out to create content. All these people I got to know because I started creating content and building a personal brand. And so it's not a huge brand deal, right? But if I went on television, right, some of the opportunities that I've gotten as a result of the network I've built because of my personal brand, I mean, you cannot put money on that. You cannot put money on that. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. Content creation has also given me a skill set that is, I would say, is really unique, right? I told you I'm a scientist, like that's how I was trained. And yet I'm a scientist that knows a lot about using cameras and about lighting for filming, writing. My public speaking has improved. Something, the other day I was watching some of my old videos just because a few of you commented on those old videos. And so I went back and watched them, and I was like, it was like cringe-worthy. This was 5 years ago. Cringe-worthy. I was like, the video was badly lit. Like there was a lot that was wrong, okay? But 35-year-old me could not be told nothing. And so those videos exist on the internet as proof that you don't need to be perfect to start, but you need to start to be perfect. And so over the years, I've definitely built my skills. I definitely know the equipment that works, that, I have cameras, not just one. I have cameras, I have mics, there's so much that has happened as a result of me creating content when it comes to building skills. Then last but not least, connecting with you all. That has been one of the biggest things I would say that has come out of content creation. When I receive emails, when I receive DMs, when I receive comments that say, thank you for creating this. Because of you, I wrote a book. Because of you, I started a blog. Because of you, I have a business. Man, that's amazing. The impact I get to make. So beyond all of these things I've shared with you, the impact I get to make has been phenomenal. So that's how content creation has paid off for me. And I hope it encouraged you to go ahead and start creating if you haven't started creating yet.